School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there's no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we're utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the board at timberlane.net/ZoomTRSB. If anybody has a problem, please call 382-6541, extension 3955. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Kat, can you take the roll call?
Brian Boyle.
I am here. I am alone in the room. There are other family members in the household.
Lee Doobie.
I am here. I am alone in the house.
Farah.
I'm here. There are other members of my family in the household.
Barbara Kishka.
I'm present. I'm alone in the residence.
Sheila Lowe's.
I am here and alone in the residence.
Sarah Mockamer.
I'm here. I am alone in my office. There are other members of my family in the house.
Sean O'Neill.
Sean said he'd be late.
Kristen Savage.
I am here. I'm in my home with other members of my family present.
Jennifer Silva. Here.
I'm here alone in my house.
Okay, thank you. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from December 17th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion we approve the December 17th minutes.
Barbara makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sheila seconds. Any discussion? Kat, could you take the vote, please?
Mr. Boyle.
Yes.
Mr. Doobie.
Yes.
Dr. Farah.
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka.
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's.
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill, not here still. Mrs. Savage.
Yes.
Mrs. Silva.
She may be off for a few minutes. Okay, the motion carries 7-0. I do not see Jenna Horn on here. Is she here? Do not see her. We will move on. If she arrives, we will push her down on the agenda. The next item, oh, sorry, delegates and individuals. We do have people speaking today. Sorry, I'm just looking for the names. Dean. I know we have two people. Oh.
Yes, I was checking to see if their hands are raised. We have Juan Vacareza, Nicole Vacareza, and Coral Hampy, who are online with us. Nicole is on. I'm going to put her on.
Okay, thank you. If you could just state your name for the record and your town, please. And you'll need to unmute.
My name is Nicole Vacareza from Sandown. I'm here to speak as both a member of the FLES team and, more importantly, a parent of 3 children who are or have been involved in the FLES program. FLES stands for Foreign Language in Elementary School. In a regular school year setting, students receive 90 minutes of instruction a week in the target language starting in kindergarten. This means the students in our district start as kindergarteners and continue straight through until their senior year, at which point they will be given the opportunity to complete Spanish level 6. This sets our students up to have 2 more full years than the average high school student in the state of New Hampshire. Clearly, this program gives our students a competitive advantage for colleges to look at and in the global world we live in. You might ask, is the program working? To answer this question, we can use both qualitative and quantitative data. For me, the qualitative data is seen when I am out as a member of the Timberlane community. As I talk to families at sports practices and games, while grocery shopping, or at pre-COVID community events, the parents talk to me about how impressed they are with how much their child knows and the fun they are having learning the language. During this time, in the midst of a pandemic, we are finding ways to have students enjoy learning while expanding their cultural awareness and their minds. If you look back at the past months, it shows us how important this is. We foster a love of learning in a subject area that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. In looking at the quantitative data taken from the Avant testing, we see the 4th graders 2 years ago, who are 6th graders now, demonstrated similar levels as 8th grade or level 1 in high school in speaking. 32% of the students tested at levels equal to a high school level 2, and 48% tested at an 8th grade or level 1 high school ability. That shows us that 80% of our 4th graders 2 years ago were at an 8th grade or higher level. The work done to transition the students from our elementary schools to our middle school and ultimately to the high school was a 2-year process. Elementary, middle school, and high school teachers came together to collaborate as a district team and create a strong, lasting foundation in the schools for all our students. We are already beginning to see the results of this work, but there is so much more to be seen. Please, when making your decision, think of the qualitative and quantitative data you heard me speak about tonight. Please put past feelings aside and make your decision based on the future of our students and the excellence in education we want for them. In the world our students are growing up in, help provide them with the knowledge they need to be able to interact with people globally and understand about diversity. In 6 years, when our 6th graders are the first class to graduate 2 years ahead of the average high school student when it comes to a foreign language, know that yes, we did the best we could for them and gave them opportunities they wouldn't have gotten from other schools around here. Be proud that you were part of that decision and part of the Timberlane Regional School District. Thank you for listening.
Okay, I have John Vacareza online.
Hello, my name is John Vacareza. I live at Royal Range Road, and I am the parent in Sandown, and I am the parent of 3 children in the Timberlane School District, 1 in the middle school and 2 at Sandown North Elementary School. I'm here to talk about the FLES program. It used to be something that I could brag about amongst neighboring towns' friends. The quote was, "Your children are learning Spanish. That's amazing." That's the common reply that we have when you talk about a 1st grader or a 4th grader taking a Spanish class. And this is now being taken away. As a parent, I try to give my child every single possible advantage to be successful in the future. And being able to speak fluently, not with a second language, with the second language of our country is just the thing they need. The demographics of the nation, region, and state are changing, and communication and collaboration are essential skills that our children need. How did we come to this decision to take a program that is giving our children these skills away? As a parent, it seems this decision was made to correct or eradicate decisions made by past administrations. I understand the want of this board to move on, but moving on should not mean moving backwards. Did this go through numerous committees such as the curriculum committee? Were parents given information about this taking place in advance? This process seems to have moved very quickly along since mid-December to this time. As a leadership member of the educational community, it would be far wiser to take the program you have going, embrace it, adjust it, add to it, and create the immersion program that you truly believe in. That is making a decision looking at the future. It also draws people to our district for academic distinction. Today's schools are ravaged by charter schools and learn anywhere programs, and those take students and dollars away from our district. What is the purpose of taking a program that is giving to 50% currently? 50% of the students in this district are in the FLES program. That is not a program you look to cut. That is one you continue to go for, push for, because in 6 more years, you will have 100%. Every single student could be in this program learning at a Spanish 6 level trajectory. That is what gets you into elite colleges. That brings people to the district, brings money to the district, and raises everyone's value. As a high school principal from outside this district, and I am a principal in Manchester, I am well aware of the skills of learning a second language and changing the tide of education. Look, we used to use the model based on factory society and conveyor belt methods. Learn the same way, same time. Learning a world language requires you to introduce a topic, build competence in the area, learn the skill, follow a progression of learning, and then build from there what you've previously learned on. If that is not done, then you must remediate, differentiate, and upon that, use other higher order thinking skills. If a student doesn't comprehend the material, they must continue to learn it in a different way. That is a 21st century skill that you should be encouraging us to put into our students' education. Colleges look for distinctions. This one will speak out. Programs are usually cut based on lack of student interest. That is not the case. They are based on a cost analysis. The cost of this program is roughly around $600,000, and it is hitting 700 students currently. That is an effective cost program. How did this decision come about? It's not lack of engagement, and it's not the expense of the program. In all conversations I have had, not one reason for destroying this student program other than we need to find a cut. The budget committee found the money. Now it's your responsibility to continue the program. Put all personalities responsible aside on this. Continue the program. Leave what is in the past, involve those of the present, and embrace the programs to help our students have a better tomorrow. This is about the students of Timberlane. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Coral Hampy is next.
Good evening. Coral Hampy, Danville, TTA President. My memo this evening will be in 3 parts. First, I will read a statement prepared also by the FLES teachers, as the majority of those teachers do not live in district. Second, I will give a statement by the middle school world language department about the FLES program, and I will end with my president's statement. It is short. Thank you to the board and the community for taking the time to listen to this message from the FLES team. FLES stands for Foreign Language in the Elementary School. It is a program that provides at least 90 minutes of instruction a week, split into 3 30 to 45-minute time blocks. It is a program that extends from kindergarten to 5th grade that focuses mainly on speaking and listening skills. The class is taught 90% in Spanish. We respectfully ask that you consider the benefits of second language learning for our district's elementary school students. Spanish is the second most widely spoken language in the world. Furthermore, the United States is now the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world, second to Mexico. It is an official language of the UN and the European Union, as well as many other international organizations. It has become ever increasingly clear that we must prepare our students for the demands of a global world now and the world we will live in. The FLES program sets the Timberlane District at the forefront of second language learning in the New England area. This elementary program builds the foundation of second language acquisition that enables our students to acquire the Spanish language and sets them up for success to acquire additional languages. Learning Spanish in elementary school builds students skills that transfer into other disciplines such as problem solving, critical thinking, memory, concentration, ability to multitask, and listening skills. In addition, elementary students are uniquely set up to acquire languages as human brains are designed to learn languages before the age of puberty. As such, the earlier a student learns a second language, the greater the capacity they will have to continue to learn language to degrees akin to native speakers. The FLES program enables our students to compete in a world more connected and with other parts of the country where elementary FLES programs, bilingual programs, and immersion programs are commonplace. We hope that you will take the recommendation of the Budget Committee and expend the money for the FLES program to continue providing Spanish language instruction to our elementary school students. This program has the capacity to open countless opportunities for our students in the years to come. Thank you. Sincerely, the FLES team. As the middle school world language department, we have the pleasure of working with the first class of students who have graduated from the FLES program in 2020. We are able to report with firsthand knowledge how superbly these students are prepared to continue their language journey in middle school. It is obvious that these students not only received valuable information and useful skills, but their teachers inspired them to continue learning their second language. We can clearly see the core principles of second language acquisition manifest in these students. They have come to us with their interest in Spanish peaked and their confidence already boosted. The FLES program helped these students to successfully develop increased ability to truly become lifelong language learners. As president, I could debate until I'm blue in the face about cutting teaching positions or programs. But we know the kids are getting a quality and well-rounded education because we are quality educators. So let's continue with taking a balanced approach to setting the budget. The Budget Committee looked into other areas where we could find savings. I'm hoping that our school board can do the same. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Let's see, moving on. I'm just looking to make sure Jenna is not here. No, she's not. Moving on to the first item on the agenda is the school reopening update. Board members, if you look in your packet, you'll find several sheets. One of them is a new update on the COVID data, the archive of the data from the beginning of the academic year to present, which was quite interesting. And Mr. Pedersen, I'm sure, knows this data better than I, but it looks like there was a peak and it seems to be coming down. We are still strained as far as staffing goes. Currently, based on what I'm seeing here, and I don't think we need to delve into this. But Kat?
Jenna is here.
Oh, okay. Let me just finish and then we'll move back to Jenna. I see her now. Based on what we're looking at right now, staff capacity is strained and student absenteeism is around 4% and staff absenteeism is around 5%. Are there any questions on the COVID dashboard before we move on to the other item in the agenda packet? No. The other information on school reopening in the agenda packet pertains, there was a question from a board member, where do we stand on trying to get elementary students from grades 3 through 5, as the administration planned to use the first 2 weeks after winter break, which I think we're still in, to track the metrics and to make recommendations, and they'll be looking to focus on grade 3 with, in addition to any special ed students in grades 4 and 5, to try to bring those students back as staffing and spacing allow. The superintendent and I did have a discussion about, would it be feasible to bring some grade levels in at some schools? And I personally, I would be in support of bringing students in, even though it doesn't, not all fourth graders come in. It would really depend on the school. But Dr. Cochran, do you want to speak a little more to that, or Lucy?
We've had some general conversations. I'll start, and then Lucy has an awful lot more in-depth data on that. I think there are two approaches. Do we try to focus on equity and making sure everybody's treated the same, or do we try and take advantage of the opportunities that we have to bring more students in on a priority basis and allow them to have an opportunity to be in 4 days a week? And the challenges will be different from school to school and from grade level to grade level. And I think that Director Cantos will be able to speak to those better than I. Notice, I apologize, Lucy.
Looking at the data as we roll up, it has a sort of trickle effect. So as we are preparing our plan for third grade to bring back to you in 2 weeks, we're also looking at 4 and 5 and looking at spacing. Right now, where we're using 2 classrooms in some schools, we may need to continue to use 2 classrooms for a class in a grade. At this point, grade 3 can return at all 4 schools in one room, 5 to 6 foot distance. So they're not less than 5. Our major issue right now is busing, and that our buses are getting to a point where they are not going to be able to pick up all of them, not all of them, some of them are not going to be able to pick up the third graders on the days that they don't normally go to school without exceeding capacity. And so in this week and next week, Sandy Hodgkins and I will really dig down into that specific data to be able to let you know exactly what buses and what our options are. But I will also bring to you potential 4th grade. If we're able to do 3 and 4 at the same time, then we will do that.
Okay, thank you. Board members, do you have questions?
Is there any chance of cooperating with parents to do carpools or something to see if we can figure out a transportation?
Those are some of the things that we have to move the conversation along to next. In terms of the busing situation, just an FYI, the capacity is in part because we use our social distancing requirements on the bus, so we decrease the capacity by a significant amount. Moving forward, we'll have to see which of those limiting factors is going to be the most significant. And as Director Kanotas points out, as we move in 3s and then potentially down the road, perhaps 4s and 5s, then that situation will be exacerbated. So that's where we're in turn trying to figure that out. And we haven't delved yet, because we've only been back for a bit, into the issue of how can we survey parents or get them to make a commitment with respect to busing. Busing is a requirement under New Hampshire law for students below the high school level. And so one of the questions would be, what would that look like, and how would we handle that? At the same point in time, there may be a significant number of parents who would be willing to do that in order to make this work and be able to bring more students back. So that's kind of the piece that we're caught in at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Jen?
When you talk about the different philosophies and mindsets about, should you do it across all or do it where you can, have we given any thought to the high school as far as we have some classes at the high school where the enrollment is small enough, I believe, that every student could feasibly attend 4 days a week for a particular class. But they're not allowed to because they're in a certain cohort. But if they wanted to come in 4 days a week for a particular class, would they be able to?
Thank you for the perfect lead-in to Mr. Pearson.
Beat you to it, Mark.
So it's funny. We've actually just talking about that and looking at how do we do that. We started to analyze that data. As I've been working with Sandy and Lucy and Dr. Cochran, we've said that we're going to look at how do the COVID numbers look after vacation. Are they rising? Are they flatlining? Are they decreasing? we're still looking at those. We're still, compiling that data. We do have the semester break or the semester transition coming up. And, those numbers are obviously going to change because parents did have the option of, changing their choice. And, if they were, say, fully remote, they did have the option of becoming a cohort 1 or cohort 2 kid in the second semester. So we are compiling all that data. We are looking at that. We're very much aware of that exact thing that you're talking about, and looking at how do we do that data. We are still realizing that we do have some limiting factors. The cafeteria, too many kids come in, and we have too many kids in the caf. We can't properly socially distance them at 6 foot while removing their masks eating. So we are looking at that. We are looking at how many kids can we bring in. We did, bring some kids in 4 days a week. We're now looking at sort of that next tier of how do we get more kids in 4 days a week that need that for supports or who want it. But that data analysis is ongoing, and we talked about that this week.
One of the issues, Board Member Silva, is that we know that we have some students who are in a particular cohort who are not showing up every day for all of their classes in face-to-face on their cohort days. So we have some students who are attending present but remote. And so the class sizes have decreased from the start of the years. Part of that is likely attributed to where we are in terms of the COVID numbers and parents' different levels of comfort with that piece. So the question becomes, if we start to make a transition and bring in other students that would allow that, we think that's a very good thing. The question becomes, how do we do it on a priority basis that brings in, the students who can benefit most from it? And at the same time, what happens if we have parents who now decide that their children are going to come back and be in remote or be in school both days of the cohort? So we could bring kids in only to find out more students are trying to come back in because they or the parents have decided they want them there. And how would we address that situation? Because we could reach a point where we think we're fine, but now a group of students that have indicated, and the parents have indicated that they want to be in the cohort model, but they haven't been in 2 days a week. If we plan on them staying out, but then they change their minds. So that's one of the issues. How do we navigate that in a fair way such that we don't end up with an influx of students at a time that would put us over our safety limits?
And that is so hard because we've had, I can speak personally for myself. My kids are in cohort 2. That's Thursday, Friday. So when you have Thursday, Friday right before Thanksgiving, and you have Thursday, Friday right before Christmas, I said, don't go. Because if I get that phone call that you've been a close contact, even though you can be socially distanced in a classroom, I don't think that distinction will be accurately made. And if you get labeled a close contact, then there goes your holidays. Or, travel outside of New England. Sorry, now you're home for 10 days because you traveled outside of New England. Or maybe a family member tested positive. So there's so many variables about why kids are present but remote. Right. And they come up, sometimes just, not well planned. So I don't think you can really plan for that.
Right. And the issue becomes, we surveyed parents and asked them to make a decision that's definitive and over a certain period of time. If the students aren't showing up all of the days that they are permitted to under that model, what happens if we bring other students in and then that group comes back? Do we, what decision do we make and on what's the basis? If we end up with saying, here's a classroom, it has a maximum capacity of X students, we're now seeing more students exceed that, but we're not comfortable. And fortunately, we have some more time to go until the end of the first semester. But we're not comfortable going into that scenario knowing that we could have that confusion where parents are saying, wait, my kid is a cohort 1 student, who's only been attending 1 day a week because they feel that they're doing fine, right? And now we have to send somebody home because we've exceeded the maximum capacity in the class. So those are the next set of conversations for us. I think everybody in the conversations that I've been involved with at the high school, including the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday of this week and today, all seem supportive of it. And the question becomes, what's the determining factor in terms of who gets priority coming in? And how do we resolve the situation if we exceed our maximum capacity and have to make decisions about who's it that has to, not be able to come in so that we can stay within our safety rules.
But what I was asking about was more these classes that, even the full class, even if the full class roster showed up, you would not be at capacity for that particular room.
Then I think that's a no-brainer. That we'd like to look at. We'd like to look at that.
Or 12.
What we'd like to do, what we'd like to do is similar with the grade 3 situation, and then 4 and then 5. To what extent can we do this, and how do we make decisions about prioritizing, and how do we make sure that everyone has fair opportunity? So I think everyone that I'm aware of that's been involved in the discussion thinks that this is the right decision to do. It's just making sure we have our procedures in place, making sure we're communicating effectively so that we don't end up in a situation where we're trying to explain to a parent that a child who has been able to attend, more than 2 days a week can no longer. And how do we make the
decision? Some of those kids, it might mean you can attend one of your classes 4 days a week, but then you need to go home for the rest of them because, but again, the high school schedule is so all over the place. It's just a big puzzle. And my point was, for those classes where there is capacity, even when full, could those teachers say to their students, if you want to come in, for this class, you're more than welcome to come in and participate in person.
And that's exactly where we are in the conversations. That how do we manage it? How do we maximize getting students back while we're maintaining our safety regulations? And busing may be an issue, but more so for some people than others, given high school students' ability to drive themselves to school. So that's what we have to try and figure out the next few weeks. And then how do we do something proactively and survey parents or ask them for a commitment, or do we just allow it to organically change and then decide at a given point that we have to impose some parameters? So that's where we are in the discussion. I think philosophically, everybody agrees that we want to get in many students as we can who want to be there. And then the question now is just procedurally how.
Okay.
I agree. So the board has made it quite clear that we want as many students in as we can safely have, and we will leave it up to the administration to see how that works. And I don't think, I understand equity versus equality, but in this case, I think students are better off, or the board thinks, I don't want to speak for the board, but in general, if they can be in the school setting. So, if there's certain grades that can do it and others that can, I don't know as anybody on the board would be opposed to doing that. Is there anybody in opposition to that? Okay.
I've not been aware of any conversation with teachers, any of the conversations that I've been involving teachers or administration. I've not had anybody disagree with the statement that having more kids in school is better.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's it. Anything else? Any other questions on the school reopening update? No, moving on. The next action item on here is the district clerk. We had one candidate for the district clerk who withdrew her application. We now do not have a district clerk. Mrs. Belcher has contacted the Secretary of State to see what should happen if we cannot find a district clerk. I know that we have well over 100 people listening in here. I would encourage people to contact others that they may know that may be interested. the position really is a very limited amount of time surrounding the deliberative session that occurs in March, on March 9th. You do need to be present for that. The SAU staff in the past has been very helpful. The previous district clerk is willing to help. Currently, board members, the stipend was upped from $200 to $500. It has been suggested that we up the stipend to $1,000 in order to see if we can get somebody that might be willing to do this position. So I'll open the floor for a discussion or a motion. Mr. Dowd just made an appearance. So did you want to say something, Mr. Dowd?
Not at all, just listening in.
Okay, Barbara.
We could make it a one-time $500 bonus for COVID, you know, rather than making it always increased.
I'm fine with that if that's what you want to make a motion, that for the current year, we up the stipend to.
Add an additional $500 for this, I motion that we add an additional $500 to the district clerk position for this year.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ryan seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Kat, could you take a roll call vote on that, please?
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Muckamer,
Yes.
Neil's still not here. Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Okay. All in favor then? That takes care of that. Moving on to the collective bargaining agreements. This is on here as informational action. The board negotiating team is still negotiating with the 4 bargaining units. There is a deadline to finalize the CBAs by January 12th. I will ask, right now, there's nothing to bring to the board for action. I will ask that board members hold next Monday for a possible special meeting should something arise here in the next few days. That would be January 11th. I cannot imagine we could do anything beyond the 11th, given that we would have to prepare all the paperwork. That's all I have on that. Anybody else on the team have any statement, comments? No. Okay, moving on. Default budget. We need to finalize the numbers for the January 14th public hearing for the default budget. This is not the final number on the default budget, but it does need to be presented as part of the public hearing. Mr. Dowd has put together, and I guess it's Mrs. Watkins also has put together the default budget. I think there has been an update within the last hour, Mr. Dowd, is that correct? So
It has, correct, yeah.
is the newest budget in the packet, or was it updated in the agenda packet?
I don't believe so unless a new agenda packet went out. And the only difference is just this number right here. There's a little calculation error. That other decrease was $20,000. It was listing as like 1.9 million. 962 is correct. So aside from that one little line right there, packet should be fine to look at. Yep, I'm trying a new format out too, so any input from the board's appreciated.
Okay, I did have some time to look at this today. I didn't have time to get back to you on anything, but are there any questions from the board on the calculation of the default budget? Sheila has a question.
I only had one question on under our maintenance line or grounds line or facility line. And I'm sorry because I just don't have a line in front of me. But didn't we purchase a new vehicle last year? Is that considered a one-time?
We did. And I believe that would be removed from this budget. But I can make doubly sure on it before we get into it.
It was just I just saw that 2410 remove new equipment. There's another one there.
No, it would have been in the 2600 series of
2600 lines.
Yeah, and I think it was just under equipment there. I do have removed new equipment line, and I'm not sure if we may have transferred funding into that line to make that transfer happen. But that's a very good question. So I can check
That's
that.
all I've got, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
Just one, that's it.
I didn't have any, anything. I did, like I said, I did go through it. Did anybody else? And sorry, I can't see everybody when the screen is being shared. If you have comments or, thank you, Jeff. Any other comments or questions on that? So are you going to have to make an adjustment? Sarah, I see your hand. Hold on. Are you going to have to make an adjustment for that vehicle to remove that? Is that going to change the number?
No, it could change the number, but it would go down. And I don't recall it being a whole lot of funding. Actually, it cost quite a bit, but I think we did transfers to make that happen. You know, you do have time even after the public hearing, so that would only cause this to go down anyway. So you're going the right direction.
I think the whole thing was like 34,000. It wasn't a ton of money.
It wasn't a lot of money, so that's fine if we don't make. We'll have to make that adjustment later because we should vote this budget tonight. Sarah, then Brian.
So on page 4, I noticed that there's 5 lines or 5 items where the business office disagrees or has uncertainty about the default budget line calculations. I'm just curious if we can go into a little bit more detail on that and how those are going to be resolved or discussed. There are a number, you know, in the last couple of years, there have been a couple of lawsuits concerning the default budget and the removal of funding for salaries and benefits, that specifically last year, the default budget removed salaries and benefits for positions that actually were still in the proposed budget. And it looks like we're doing the same thing again. So I just want to get some clarity on that and understand what, you know.
Can we bring up the pages you're referring to? Because I don't.
It's on page 4 of 19.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 3. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's page 3. Hang on. Can I
page
just
3? I don't know. On my laptop, sorry. On my laptop, it says page 4. So.
You mean page 4 of the PDF packet. Yeah.
Right. Sorry. So that was what I was referring to, this page.
Fair question. So, and I will just say that this schedule right here, you can see that this is looking at the function object code and the note as to any adjustment that's occurred on that line. And this ties to this report, which is sort of the system generated report. So any line that you see any change from the default this year to the voted last year, you'll find the backup detail for it on this report. This is similar to what you've seen in the past. I've typically had a column that's like business office supported or something to that effect. This gives it a little bit more room to make some explanations as to what the issues may be. And I'm going to start on this page right here. You'll see a little footnote 2 and a footnote 1. I'll address the footnote 1 real quick by going down to the bottom here. The footnote 1 relates to all of the SAU services. They are required by statute. The statute doesn't speak to it. I don't know. The further we go with this, the more years we go into this, we find more sort of gaps, more ambiguities in the statute. So I'm simply pointing that out. I think we're all okay with the treatment of it. Quite frankly, I think you're lower in the default than you were on the assessment for the SAU last year. I simply point that out. I don't think it's necessarily an area of disagreement. It's more an area of, gee, this just, you know, this is the main assessment that we had last year. So you can see I've removed that and then added the relevant lines in. I don't know how to treat it. We talked about that before.
Jeff, we also have legal counsel and they're in agreement with the way it's being handled.
Yeah, and and technically we're not including more, we're including less. It's just a matter of shifting around the lines and it's legally required. So it's just a weird little nuance that probably doesn't come up very often.
Well,
yeah,
maybe we should, I'm sorry, but maybe we should add that footnote.
Well, there are comments that would go in the MSDS.
Okay, because I
for
think
any
that,
adjustment,
you know,
for any
legal
adjustment.
advising us how to handle it should be added in that.
Yeah. So that's it. And as far as the positions go, I did make note on the various lines. I think 2, 3, 4, 5, just where those came up. You can see that it came up in a couple different lines. the 2 million reduction in force was included in the default budget. That was the action that the school board took at the last, I think it was last meeting. And that's been included in the salary lines as well as the benefits lines. And in a case where there has been more removed from the default budget than there has been from the operating budget, I've simply made a note of it. So 452 is removed from the operating budget, 1.2 is removed from the default budget. The statute
But
itself.
hang on. You're saying that you made a note of it, but what you're saying above is that you disagree or have uncertainty. Why is that?
I have uncertainty because the statute on the default itself states that it allows for the removal of salaries and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. So I underlined the proposed budget. And the question is, what's the proposed budget?
Sorry,
you guys proposed a budget.
I think sorry, Mr. Dowd, I think you need to take that entire, go ahead. I'm going to look up that statute because it reduced by one-time expenditures contained in them by salaries that have been eliminated in the proposed budget.
What's the, which proposed budget? To see down here, Kim, they speak to like a proposed operating budget. So it's ambiguous. I can't, the school board has proposed a budget to the budget committee. You have proposed your budget. These positions have been removed from that budget that you proposed. I simply put it there. I don't think it's more an area of disagreement, more just pointing out some ambiguity in the statute, which as we go along here, it seems that there are more and more, ambiguities in the statute. I don't think it's inconsistent with what you did
Jeff,
last year.
after you have the highlighted line, and then it says, for purposes of this paragraph, one-time expenditures shall be appropriations not likely to recur in the succeeding budget. Well, if a position has been eliminated, it's certainly not going to occur in the succeeding budget. But then it speaks to eliminated positions.
Just pointed out.
Okay, thank you.
Every time, Kim, it's like we find some other nuance in the statute and then they'll change it and then it'll create some further ambiguity, just as a guarantee, with every good faith effort in trying to fix it. Good,
Kim?
Ryan, sorry.
My suggestion then the comments should be due to ambiguity in the statute versus, I don't want people thinking that the school board's doing this and the business administrator is doing the opposite.
Yeah, and I asked the question right here, is the proposed budget in the RSA referring to the proposed budget proposed by the budget committee or by the school board? So I'm fine with that. And I even did this here. Look at with the SAU issue, I agree with it. I agree with the treatment of it. It's just ambiguous. I can't point to the statute and say this is exactly how it works,
I don't know. I just think about what the case last year, I believe, was around removing of benefits. Well, that was specific to benefits for positions that hadn't been removed, but still it did have to do with the budget that the budget committee presented, and we were removing funds for positions that were still in the proposed operating budget. And so this just raised a red flag for me. I just want to better understand and make sure that we're not going to be faced with another lawsuit come.
No matter what we do, you could be faced with that though, Sarah. I hear you. Over a dime, you could be, we can't prevent people from suing us.
Well, I think we're going to have to get counsel to weigh in on this then before, I mean, we can, the default budget can be changed up to the time of public hearing. So, or, till the ballot's
printing of the ballot, technically,
yeah,
correct?
so we could, yes, up to the printing of the ballot. So I'd say we'll leave this as is for the public hearing, and then we will move it forward. Barbara, then Jen.
So just so I understand, Mr. Dowd is saying his question is, when he's looking at the cuts, are we taking the proposed budget from the school board or the numbers from the budget committee? And I think you're saying that's where your concern is, and you're asking which one should you be using?
Yeah, which proposed budget, because you do have an official budget committee, but the school board here has, you took the budget, you were the first ones to have the budget. And then that's the budget that gets proposed to the budget committee from the school board.
Mm-hmm.
But
so which proposed budget,
Jen, then Sarah.
I'm inclined to say that it refers to the proposed budget that we're proposing to the voters. But if we don't have that finalized and nailed down yet as what's going to be, presented on the ballot, then yeah, I don't know how you do that line in advance of that.
Sarah?
So the budget that goes on the warrant is the one that the budget committee created. And so that, to me, that would indicate that the proposed budget would be the one that the budget committee presents to the voters. So if we're removing funds from the default budget that are not, various salaries and positions that have been eliminated from the proposed budget, if they haven't been eliminated from the proposed budget, then we shouldn't be eliminating them from the default. Because that's the proposed budget by the budget committee is the one that goes on the warrant. So,
But the school board proposes a budget to the budget committee, right, Mr. Dowd?
Correct. Yep.
Correct.
they have a different number.
The school board has a proposed budget, and that's the ambiguity that Mr. Dowd's talking about, correct? We don't know now which budget, proposed budget this statute is talking about. I'm not really understanding how the budget committee can be funding lines in a proposed budget when there are no positions to fund.
There you go.
But I'm not going to get into that.
Thank you. That was my comment. I don't understand how lines are being funded when they were eliminated by a vote of the school board.
Well, I think that is a question that we'll have to raise at the public
Well-
hearing for the budget committee.
Yeah, that's my question. That would be my question to legal.
I will be in contact, or unless Brian Cochran, do you want to? I'm happy to join in on that call.
Yeah.
So the default budget needs to be discussed as part of the public hearing, and that's another item on the agenda. Are there any, Mr. Dodd, do we need to take a vote on this budget, or are we just going to present it as is?
I wouldn't mind if we took a vote that this is the number for us to be able to present, but I know with the whole roll call thing, if you wanted to maybe do it as part of another vote, that'd be fine. Take 2 votes at once. I don't know.
No, that's okay. Can I entertain a motion to, to approve the default budget for presentation at the public hearing on January 14th?
So moved with the necessary adjustments for the vehicle purchase.
Okay.
We
Is there a
need to have
second?
a number that's in there. So that should be the motion, is if it's what it is Jeff has presented tonight, and that's what the board desires, that's what it should be made as one motion, that, it's that dollar amount. And if you want to change that.
You weren't here earlier when I brought up that we bought a new vehicle that should probably come out.
I think Brian, maybe the motion should just be for this particular number. We can go back and change the number. I don't want to.
Sure.
Let's vote a number.
Okay, I'll withdraw my second. So I'll withdraw my actual motion.
So why don't you motion? Jeff's got the number highlighted.
Is that the motion? That's the 74,267?
Yes.
I will motion to move to public hearing the default budget number of 74,267,397. 74,267,397.
I'll second.
Sheila seconds. Any further discussion? Kat, can you take a vote on that, please? Oh, sorry, Barbara.
So this is the number that we agreed on the last meeting. This is
No, this is a this is a calculated budget based on statute.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Kat, you want to take a roll call?
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Muckamore,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva.
Yes.
Sean, do
Okay,
you know
thank
what
you.
time you got here?
What was that?
Do you know what time you got here?
7:43.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dowd, I assume Mr. O'Shaughnessy is going to be at the public hearing.
Yes, I've
I think I would give him a heads up on these questions. Okay, that's it for the default budget. Next item on the agenda is warrant articles. We need to finalize money articles in time for the public hearing. The capital reserve article amount may need finalizing as well. Do we have that warrant for the capital reserve fund? That needs to be presented at the public hearing, correct? We're leaving that at 250,000. So basically
Yes.
that warrant is saying that if there's any money left in the capital lines, the 4,600 lines, that those will go into the capital reserve fund that was established for the district, and they'll be held by the trustee of trust funds for Plastow. Sheila?
Didn't we at one point discuss raising and appropriating it?
Well,
because the last few years we didn't have enough to put in.
Yeah, but I don't think we want to put a money warrant in this year, especially
Okay, no,
where
I'm just-
we do have close to $1 million still in that fund, which I
Right.
was actually kind of surprised by.
No, that's fine, as long as,
We did discuss it, but I think we
Yeah.
discussed it thinking that we did not really have that much in that fund.
Okay,
I thought it was much lower than that.
just jog my memory, that's all.
So we have the, those would be the only money articles are the budgets, and then the money that will go into the capital reserve fund should there be any excess left from the capital.
Unless you get a collective bargaining.
Unless there's a collective bargaining, which we would have to do that on Monday. We don't have anything right now. All right, so then nothing else there on action. Do we need to take an action, Mr. Dowd, on that capital reserve fund warrant article, or is that we're just moving it forward?
I think you already moved it forward, did you not last time? I don't know if there were any changes since then.
I don't think we've had any changes, so but we can move that forward by consensus of the board. It's typically a standing article. Okay, next thing is public hearing prep. As you may or may not know, the Budget Committee public hearing is on January 14th. It will be virtual and it will start at 7 o'clock. Someone is going to need to present on the default budget, the capital reserve fund, and if there's any collective bargaining articles, those will also need to be presented. I'm happy to run through the default budget and also the capital reserve unless somebody else wants to do it. Wow, don't all jump, guys, don't all jump. Okay, I'll take care of that.
Before we take a step backwards.
Don't raise your hand. Okay, that's fine. Mr. Dowd, can we just clarify that we have to go over every single line in that budget? Can we just display it? I mean, if we have to, we have to, whatever.
The default budget, I think if we make it available, we also have a packet, right, that we make available.
Right.
People can access at home as well. So I think if there are any changes, but they're going to be on the MSDS. I could put them on that form, which is it's a much more just right function. So it'll be much
we can just put it on the MSDS, and then if we have to read it off, we can read it off. I can ask Attorney O'Shaughnessy when he's there. Barbara?
We be making that available as an Excel rather than a PDF?
The MSDS is a form.
Oh, well, the default budget.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah. Just in the form that you saw, though, like function object code that you see in the report that you have tonight.
Oh, that was pretty, it's still, and it has the page numbers in it and stuff?
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
I can see what we can do.
Thank you.
Maria is very good at working with this stuff. So thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think we're all set with that. The next item on the agenda is the SAU 55 withdrawal, and this is an action item. What I needed, as you know, we are starting to staff the new SAU. And one of the things that has come to my attention is the benefit sheet for the SAU. And I don't know, can somebody pull this up? I have it on my screen. I can share it if you want, but then I would like to bring up the SAU benefit sheet from 2021. The current 2020, 2021. Do you want me to share my screen and do this?
That
Barbara?
makes sense.
I'll do it just a second.
I have it right here. I can do it.
I have it as well.
Okay.
Here we go.
Thank you. So I have talked to the superintendent about this, and we looked at what is currently in district. What I would like to recommend for the board is that when we look at item number 2, it says employees opting not to enroll in the group medical plan will receive a cash settlement of 30% of the SAU's support of the plan to a maximum of $5,000. And we just want that to read a maximum of $5,000. And I think that's in the new draft of the language.
So are you going to remove the 30%?
Yes.
Why even at 5,000, Kim?
That's what it's currently at.
I understand what it's currently at. It's a brand new SAU, so I don't think any other groups get anywhere near that kind of money.
Well, you're talking about, remember this SAU, this is the administrator's benefit sheet. This would only apply to the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the CFO, and HR.
Well,
it's my understanding.
I guess that doesn't bother you as much as the last one, number 18. It's got to go.
Well, we haven't gotten to 18.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it seems it should be proportional. I don't know why you're proposing to give it flat 5,000 to everybody. That opts out.
Proportional to what? What do you mean?
Well, it's a third settlement of 30% of the support they would have gotten. That's what the 30% is, right?
Right.
And we're giving this very generous benefit to the people who are getting paid the most. It doesn't make sense.
Well, somebody let me know what you're thinking here.
I get paid $300 for the whole year for opting out in private industry.
Well, let me tell you about public industry compared to private industry, Barbara. It's a whole different ball game, I'm finding out.
Well, Sheila, but I agree with Barbara. So you
I'm
have.
not saying I disagree.
You have the other 600 plus people getting between $250 and $500.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what hang on one second. I'm just gonna, feel free to keep talking. I'm just gonna go get the TTA contracts.
I mean, the cost of these
is like 30,000.
Yeah, are $25,000 to $30,000.
Okay. So if that's what we want to do, then that's what we should be doing for all the others. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I know the TSSU is 250.
Yeah.
And do they all have to wait a year to be eligible for that benefit?
The the teachers union is 500. I do not see that they have to wait a year on TTA.
Yeah, this seems, where did this 5,000 come from? It's very generous. I mean, we're starting from anew here. We're not tied to.
I don't know.
Was this in the last one?
This is the current benefit sheet.
Right, I understand. Is
For
this,
SAU 55?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
there you go. That's what we're trying to ask.
Yeah, that's.
So this is just
Well, Barbara, the
basically,
90% of paid medical insurance is pretty generous as well.
Yeah.
Indeed. What is it for the TTA?
85.
PTA gets 85.
Okay. 85 is nice.
Yeah, they
Again,
don't- they-
public
they get
versus
500.
private. So
And
at
I'm with you.
30%, say these things are $30,000. That's $900, 30%, right?
Excuse me?
Sorry, say that again, Sheila.
No.
They're opting out and the policy is $30,000.
Yeah.
That's $900 at 30%, correct?
10,000.
No,
No, it's 9,000.
9,000.
9,000. They
Oh.
can't get that. They can only get a maximum up to 5,000.
Well, I think when I look at this, it's like a,
getting
are you trying to entice people to not take it because it will be a cost savings for us if we don't have to pay 90%?
Yeah.
So in which
Exactly.
case, if you're trying to entice people to do that, Barbara, then making it $500 isn't really going to be that enticing.
So okay, Jen. So then why don't you do that to the other 600 plus people?
No, I'm just asking if that's because it's 90, this one's 90%, we pay 90% of it.
And as we
Can
do
we
with
just-
the other lot.
Let's take a time out here. Dr. Cochran, can you provide any insight from your level of experience as to, remember, we have support staff, we have TTA, then we have this top level. I don't know. I'm wondering, could you provide some insight?
From a board budgeting perspective, and Mr. Dowd can chime in on this as well. What the board should be trying to do is find the lowest number which when combined with the number of people who will opt into that would save the most amount of money. So any number that you're going to pick is going to be a savings. The question becomes when you have a family or two people where one of them is a district employee, what's the threshold that will incentivize enough people to go on the other person's healthcare? And so some other business or some other company bears the brunt of the family or two-person healthcare. And that may be different in the different levels of employee, or it may not, because much of it is tied to the spouse's potential health care. So it's really, in some cases, a best guess as to what is the threshold. And all that I have been able to do in working with BAs is have an informed conversation about where we are, and if we raise the level, how many more people would we have to get to increase the district saving and therefore savings to the taxpayer? But it is a guess situation. We went through this process in Litchfield and actually got some significant savings by raising the number, if I recall correctly. But the question is, it's more based on the comparative salary than ours, because if you have two people both who are eligibility for the healthcare, the bigger buyout usually is the one that rules. And so if we have the slightly bigger buyout, we have more people who are bought out, and that $20,000 to $25,000 per buyout, $20,000 to $25,000 savings is pretty significant. So the question becomes, how high a level do you have to get more people to have their spouse go on their spouse's insurance? And it's an educated guess, but it's certainly not an exact science. Jeff, your thoughts?
I think generally speaking, that would be the proposition. I think there are two schools of thought. Either either it's a token, or, and I won't say token or nominal in the wrong way, and I don't speak to this contract or this benefit sheet in particular, just the philosophy is it's either a token amount because there is coverage somewhere else, or if you do want to entice people, there might be a plan that a spouse or that they have access to that that there may be a little bit of a cost difference. And so you're almost allowing them, by doing a healthy payout on the plan, to use that funding to pay for that separate coverage. And that doesn't speak to this plan in particular. That's just the general philosophy out there. Again, a token nominal amount, $500, is simply because someone else already has coverage somewhere else. It's not an enticement for them to go on that plan, but a healthy amount, it could be an enticement for someone to go on that plan if that plan is not as favorable as what's being offered by SAU, or if that plan is not, you know, if the economics work out that it makes sense to utilize that funding, participate in another plan. That's a win for the employee, and that's a win for the employer, because they're not paying the whole hefty premium that they would normally.
So what's your best guess, basically, as a board or us as a district, at the threshold at which we would receive more than sufficient numbers opting out to pay for the additional buyout? $5,000, I think, is a pretty significant number.
It would be a significant number, Dr. Cochran, and I would urge you to consider that if someone is going on to another plan with a spouse or someone else, they're getting into territory that they're going to be on the either +1 plan, or perhaps going from a +1 to a family plan, which inherently would cause that other plan to cost more. So 5,000 might be a healthy amount. I don't know what that sweet spot is, if you will. And again, not specific to this benefit sheet or any in particular, but
I think it's almost a moot point, because I'm not sure how many people would say no to 90% paid medical insurance. I mean,
Well,
unless their spouse has something better.
and that is possible, that especially if you're giving, remember, we are only talking about the top 4 to 5 people here.
Right, but you have to have some consistency, Kim. That's when you're talking to the other group.
Well,
Total of
if
six.
you're talking salary and benefits amongst different groups, I don't think you can always say that you're consistent.
I agree, but this is a spread. When if you go from 250 up to 5,000.
One other point of information is, how many people in the district have both spouses working for the district?
Well,
So-
in the SAU,
Well, not for the SAU. I'm just.
but this is just the SAU.
Okay.
This is just the top 5, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the BA, HR, and I thought there was one more, Kim.
Lead accountant.
Lead accountant. It's only 5 people that
So-
this particular benefits services.
So Brian, I agree, you need to have, I mean, we need to have some thought towards the consistency. But when you look back at this, I mean, our current, what we were under SAU 55 was 30%, which would be more than the 5,000. I mean, putting the 5,000 in is a cap. So it's actually bringing it down and closer to, you know, 30% could have been way more than 5,000 for some of these
Yes.
plans. So
Unless
we
you
are
just show us,
actually, we're capping it. I mean, is it ideal? You know, and I get what you're saying, Brian, about having consistency, but we haven't been consistent. I mean, we've been at 250 and 30% all along. So this isn't like we're just changing this now and adding this. We're actually capping it to bring it down.
Well, here's the difference though, Krista. We are, this is a brand new SAU.
I agree.
And you have 4 brand new unions. So as we try to start, that's all. I think it's.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying we haven't been consistent all along. I mean, I
No
agree that
question.
now's the time.
I'm trying to correct past mistakes.
Understandable, and there's definitely plenty to correct. So, I mean, but is 5,000 the number? Is 30% the number? Do we change that? Do we go with a different number? I mean, I think this was a suggestion to try to cap it, to stop the bleeding and to make it a little more consistent. So, I mean, if there's something else out there, you know, or put some more thought into it, I guess. I mean, it's not something,
This is this is a significant change, Kristen, as you said. It's the previous sheet had 30%. And so you were talking a substantial amount of money. This caps it down to $5,000.
And Kim, do you need a vote on this tonight? Is it something? Take
We
a little
don't need to
time?
vote on this tonight, but remember, we are now looking at interviewing superintendents fairly soon. And if I were coming in, I'd want to know what my benefits were.
No, I agree with that.
So this needs, we need to get this, so let's move on here. Scrolling down here, wait, Barbara, not that far. Go to 3. The old benefit sheet for number 3 had, right now, if somebody retires after 1999 and they're not eligible for Medicare, okay, they're not yet 65, they receive a sum of $3,300 per year until they become eligible. In the previous sheet, and this is one of our long-term liabilities with the SAU, we offered to keep paying them in perpetuity $1,650 for their supplemental Medicare. So this new benefit sheet removes that. Right now, we have administrators from the SAU that have retired 10, 20 years ago that we're still paying this $1,650 a year to until they become deceased. So that is the suggestion is to remove it from this benefit sheet. It becomes a long-term liability for the district if we don't. And honestly, back to, what senior administrators are making, I don't see why that was ever put in there. Unless somebody has some rationale. Mr. Dowd, do you have any idea?
It's an enhancement, particularly before retirement, in order to sort of remove that obstacle if someone was looking to retire, particularly before the age of full retirement, or in the event of full retirement, to perhaps encourage an employee to retire to the extent that you're going to be bringing in most likely a lower cost employee, but you're also, you do have people, especially nowadays, who will work for the benefits, just for the benefits. And so again, this is just part of that that benefit to try and move people out if working if you're working for the benefit, to have some small enhancement, some small enticement.
Right, but what I'm saying is why in the current benefit sheet is there after Medicare eligibility up to $1,650 a year?
Well, bear in mind that employees can work after Medicare eligibility, right, after 65. So, if you have someone who's working after 65 just for the benefits, just for insurance, then this is a slight enhancement to get that person to move on or retire on time, if that makes economic sense for the district, would be my guess.
But this would be after Medicare. Medicare.
Yeah. And again, you can have people who continue to work after Medicare eligibility for the insurance, and if this is some small enhancement, small enticement to get that person to retire, you'll end up bringing in someone who's most likely a lower cost employee, administrator.
Okay, so
is this changed to cap over to stop once they hit Medicare?
it stops once they hit Medicare, and the previous benefit sheet, and Barbara, I don't know if you can bring them up side by side, the current benefit sheet allows for them to collect $1,650 a year after, forever.
Okay.
So this is a change. The next item down here that would be changed was in terms of number 6. Moving forward, we are not planning on having a transportation coordinator, and we are changing the business operations coordinator to a lead accountant. So there was just a change in the language on number 6. Number 10, sick leave redemption. In the previous sheet, hang on a second, I'm looking at the previous sheet. it was a cumulative up to 90 days. In this sheet, we were leaving it the same on sick days. Oh, retirement leave redemption in the previous benefit sheet was up to 50% per diem, which for a senior administrator per diem could be upwards of $700 or $800 a day, meaning they could be pulling in $300 to $400. So this one caps it, the change caps it at $100 per day versus 50% of their per diem.
Mhm.
That was change 10. The next change is on the out of district mileage. Currently, administrators, the superintendent was 1,600, the BA was 1,000, human resources was 1,200, the business operations coordinator was 1,000. So we are now moving towards reimbursing at the IRS rate, or the suggestion here.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Let me see, let's 12.
So these 1,600, I'm sorry, let me back up a second. 1,600, 1,000, 1,200, 1,000 is basically a stipend for driving.
That's correct. That's in the current sheet.
And they don't actually have to put in the miles to get it?
No.
No. Okay, all right.
So moving forward, the suggestion is that they be you put in your mileage.
Right.
That was also an in-district thing, though.
Right.
That was in-district travel.
Yeah, we've seen this before. Yeah.
So you've basically just removed the in-district travel allowance.
Correct. That was in-district travel. Yes.
So I guess the question is, should 12 be out of district mileage, or should it just be mileage? In
I
and
suppose
out of district.
Mileage.
It should just be mileage.
Mileage reimbursement.
Mileage reimbursement. The next change in the current benefit sheet, and I'm not really sure what this was, there was a business expense account that was shared by the superintendent, assistant superintendent, BA, and business operations coordinator of $1,000. Mr. Dowd, do you know what this account is and what it was used for?
To be quite frank with you, Kim, it's a bit of an oddity to me. If there is a conference or some travel that's needed, there are lines for it. It's not, it's not. That's the way that I view it. If you have to go to training somewhere remote or in town or something, that that there'd be an expense account there. But that's covered under typical, under typical training, under typical reimbursement, I would imagine. So.
Right.
I've always wondered a little bit about a policy, an expense account thing, like a section like that.
Okay, thank you. So the suggestion is to remove that. The other thing in the current benefit sheet that this one does not have is compensatory time.
Can we,
And the old, don't laugh. As in the old benefit sheet, it says as approved in advance and time clock plus by the superintendent for work on holidays and or weekends, or when the SAU office is closed for business. The feeling here is that these are salaried employees, so there would be no reason to talk about compensatory time. So that's been removed from here.
Kim,
in the rest,
can we talk about 14, the sabbatical leave? And what's defining that? What's the duration? And if you could just explain more of it.
I mean, I didn't put this benefit together. I'm just looking at what was in the previous one, and through conversations with Dr. Cochran, we're trying to make this, more reasonable as we move forward. Is it, Dr. Cochran, maybe you can weigh in on this. I mean, typically teachers are eligible for sabbaticals. Would this be unusual? Oh, I don't know if he's there anymore.
Yeah, I am. I just had to step out for a minute.
Sabbatical leave. What is it? Should we be leaving sabbatical leave in the senior, in the SAU benefit sheet, or?
it's something that districts do for a long-standing person that they want to incentivize their improvement, because both sides are going to make a significant commitment that makes that benefit worthwhile for the district. So but you're also, typically in a sabbatical,
Losing somebody.
it's full salary.
Yeah, and you're losing somebody.
It's a minority of districts who have that clause in my experience. I was fortunate to get a sabbatical, but I was one of 3 sabbaticals a year in a school district with 55,000 students. So, that was the ratio. You're looking for somebody with some value that you want to move them to that next level, because you're going to invest in them in the long term and expect to maintain them. That's typically when it's to the district's advantage to do so.
So when you say long-term, that a employee has been with you for a long term, do you consider
Well,
7 years?
there are 2 things. There's how long the employee has been with you. And in some cases, you can tie a sabbatical, and Mr. Broth would probably be able to give you more information. But it may be advantageous to tie a sabbatical to X number of years employment within the district afterwards. So if somebody doesn't get a sabbatical, get a doctorate, and go get hired somewhere else.
Right.
So I think that's a protection the board would want to build in.
Why would one of our top 5 go on sabbatical?
It's tough. You basically have to
I don't know how you do that.
pay an entire administrator's salary.
Yeah, but for what reason? If you're in your top 5, your superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the CFO, these are highly trained people now. I don't get why. I always think of sabbaticals as something more long-term in training. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't, it's typical, at least in higher education, to offer sabbaticals after 7 years to faculty, but not necessarily to the senior administrators.
I guess that's my point.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why this isn't. I can't imagine giving a superintendent a sabbatical.
So why don't I just remove it?
That's bingo. That's what I was going to say, Kristen.
Just take it out.
No, I'm fine with that. Okay, so I think we need to. I think everybody's pretty much okay with this, except, and I'm fine. We can take out the sabbatical leave.
21.
What about 18?
18. Now, again, you're talking about the top 5 administrators.
Paying the dues, that's fine.
So
I no problem paying association dues.
no, the early retirement incentive, because when we were looking at this during withdrawal, they're like, well, what's
I got
the
a problem with that one.
of early retirement? Okay.
I'm with you, Barbara.
Huh?
I'm with you.
Okay.
Barbara, this has been a bone of contention.
This is outrageous. Only exists at Timberland. Doesn't exist any other place that we know of.
Yeah, it's a big payout. We do give to the pension, right? They have pension.
Of course you do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we're, it keeps going up. Our costs keep going up because of the state's pushing more of the pension on us. So why would we pay this?
Right. So
On
this
top
is
of
one that should have a cap on it.
Absolutely. 45% of the salary. That's
crazy. It's crazy.
very generous.
Well, it's not generous. It's outrageous. It only exists at Timberland. It doesn't exist any other place. You're being very kind.
So again, this was an SAU 55. This is what was in the policy. So we're not SAU 50, well, we are still for a little while.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we move to 106, what do we want it to be? And again, I know, like Kim's saying, we need to kind of work on narrowing this down as soon as possible. You know, especially where we're going to be looking to interview and move forward with the superintendent soon. So, I mean, what's the consensus? And it doesn't have to be decided today, but I would say by the next meeting, we really should have this hammered down.
Yeah, Brian Boyle, let Brian Cochran wants to speak. Maybe he can speak to this a little more.
Okay.
While I was actually able to benefit from a sabbatical myself, as I said, in a large district, personally, I question the use of sabbaticals in very senior positions. If you need a sabbatical to improve your job and you're in a superintendent or assistant superintendent level, it would be an exceptional case where you're so happy with somebody that you want to, you know, offer them a sabbatical. But the sabbatical basically means you're going to get a year to work and improve yourself as an employee. Well, that's a little bit of an oxymoron, right?
Yeah.
The person's operating at that level, so we're going to reward them by giving them another year to go get another degree or whatever. There may be from my personal perspective, and I speak only personally, and let's hope there's no superintendents in the audience tonight. I don't see it at this level. I mean, it would be a rare case where you have someone who's an assistant superintendent with tremendous potential, and you say we're going to do a phased transition here. We're going to invest in this person, and we will give them a sabbatical to get this degree. But I'm not sure in the upper parts of K-12 administration, assistant superintendents, that agree that an additional master's or a doctorate
Make a difference.
is related to a significant performance improvement, quite honestly.
Well, I could see sending somebody to like a 2-month intensive management course or something, but yeah.
To me, something like that to address a specific need is a far more benefit to the district at far less cost than a 1-year sabbatical. I mean, my sabbatical, I had to pay my own tuition, but I was paid for the year, so it was certainly worth it. I question whether it is, in the vast majority of cases, worth the investment. What is the nexus of the situation that would make it worth paying somebody a very significant salary to do nothing that would contribute for an entire year potentially to the good of the district and the services and support for students and teachers and paras? It's a pretty extreme commitment in my professional opinion.
Okay, so I think people are in agreement with removing that. Dr. Cochran, we're kind of moving down. What about number 18, the early retirement incentive?
An early retirement incentive is, I'm going to shoot myself in both feet. An early retirement incentive is generally there to incentivize somebody retiring, and you're going to be able to bring somebody in at a lower cost. And with every other administrative position in the district except superintendent, once you achieve continuing contract status, unless the person leaves of their own volition, you need cause in order to non-renew them. So if they don't move on their own and they just want to keep staying, then that's the situation. So you may want to incentivize an administrator at a very high salary retiring now.
Well, I think, remember, these are the top 5 positions.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
typically don't pay, especially when you talk about the financial end, at the same rate as they would in the private sector. So this early retirement incentive, even though it's would unlikely be used because an administrator at that level is unlikely to be here for 11 years, just because of
Right.
where they are in their career, it may be an incentive. And as you say, the difference here between this administrative group is they're basically at-will employees in some sense, whereas your other administrators and teachers have a contractual continuing
Teachers,
contract sort of thing,
well,
right?
teachers and administrators except superintendent. The superintendent is the outlier in the entire system. Superintendent, all other employees, teachers, administrators, are covered under the RSA that requires cause. And
Is the
they have due
CFO?
process.
Is the CFO?
Yes, as a certified employee in the district. They're a state certification. There were any position that requires state certification that's professional in nature. So the BA is the same way. Once you have continuing contract status, then you're not at will. You are renewed on April 15th per the RSA. And if there's termination, then they have recourse for that. And it's expected that they would have, that you would have to have cause. Jeff? Your understanding as well? I think the law is pretty clear.
Certified. I haven't checked the law, but it is a certified position.
So the superintendent position is the only one that's the odd person out because you don't have any due process rights. You're elected as because the board votes on the superintendent, it's an elected position and therefore is not eligible for the same rights. A board can, in theory, simply allow a superintendent to complete their contract and say, thank you very much. You've not been terminated. We just don't have to extend your contract and we don't have to give you any cause or reason for it. Does that make sense?
Right, but remember this SAU benefit sheet, and again, and Kristen, you're probably going to need to take the lead. Sarah, I do see your hand. Hold on a second. This does not pertain to the superintendent, correct? Barbara, can you scroll that back down? I think because currently the superintendent had a standalone contract.
Yes.
So these benefits,
all of the other administrators except the superintendent would be covered under that clause.
this right here. Oh, under that clause about continuing contract.
Right.
Where's that?
No, it's the clause is not in here. It's basically an RSA. You can. So
I think it's 189.14A.
Yeah,
RSA
I think
189.14A.
Kristen, do you think you could get with Jim O'Shaughnessy on this, because we're going to need to, and relatively soon, get some clarification on this benefit sheet and also what we're going to use for the superintendent, because in the last superintendent contract we had, he had his own contract, and he actually, and you know from our discussions, board members, that this really didn't apply to him, this benefit sheet. And is that how this is going to be moving? Is our new superintendent going to have their own contract, or are they going to use this benefit sheet?
I'll talk to Jim.
Okay.
I'll get in touch with Jim.
Okay, maybe you and I can talk about this some more, but we're going to need to bring this back to at the next meeting and try to get this tied up, because we're now interviewing for lead accountant now. And obviously the superintendent search is moving forward. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So listening to all this, and I understand that, obviously part of the reason to create the new SAU was to identify cost savings and control costs and all of that. But at the same time, we're an employer. So when people are applying for these positions and they get to the point in the interview process where there is a discussion about benefits, we have to really think about whether or not we want to make sure that what we're offering is at least industry standard. And then we also want to think about whether or not we want to be progressive and competitive. If we're savings, if, we offer a slightly lower, maybe the salary package is a little bit lower, but our benefits are progressive and competitive, then that might entice a quality candidate to overlook salary issues. If we offer more for salaries, but then our benefits aren't quite as aggressive and competitive, then that might outweigh it. So you have to kind of think about it as not just the tax savings and the impact. I mean, that is obviously a component, but we want to make sure that our overall benefits package is at least industry standard. And they can go, all right, well, I'm interviewing at this school district for this position, and they offer this, and this, or over what our district is offering, or is it vice versa? Are we offering benefits that other districts aren't in order to bring in quality candidates? And so while I understand, that not everybody is probably going to use a sabbatical, but it's a benefit. It's an opportunity. If they stay with the district for a number of years and they want to do professional growth, and we have a quality assistant superintendent or a quality, somebody who can step up into that role and adjust, and they want to take advantage of that benefit, that might be something that they take advantage of. And then the district in the long run might be better off with that small break, or with a retirement incentive. Maybe we have somebody who's been in the district just a little bit too long, and we kind of have a really solid retirement benefit, that they're able to take advantage of, and we can bring in somebody new and, and innovative, and again, move the district forward. So rather than just always looking at the bottom line, looking at it from an employer standpoint and the benefits that we offer as an enticement for applicants in choosing our district over another. So while I appreciate the discussion, that component was missing, and I just really felt that it was important to bring it up.
Thank you. I agree with you. And sometimes there are benefits in here that people may choose a job because there's a benefit that looks attractive, and the chances that people use those benefits are probably slim, but it could be the deciding factor. So I think anybody else want to help Kristen, but like if Kristen doesn't mind taking the lead on revamping in this and the rationale. So it seems like the board, the big sticklers are the retirement incentive on this and the insurance buyout. But I think that, again, you're looking at different groups of employees that have different levels of certifications, years of work. So I think there's, I don't know.
Jim?
Yes, Brian.
So Kristen, if you're going to be in touch with Jim, could you also, I wholeheartedly agree with Sarah. That being said, that's, as I've been thinking about whether it's no matter sheet you're looking at, 18 or 21, because it's almost like a misnomer, early retirement incentive. It's a retirement bonus when people are walking out the door. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if this doesn't exist from what we understand any other place in the state, why are we doing it?
Yeah, and Jim should definitely have some insight into what other districts have and where this will compare with regard to them. So
there you go.
Definitely talk to him about that and see where he thinks we stand in the scope of it. I mean, are we right in the middle with everybody, or are we on one end of the spectrum or the other? So I'll get that information and bring that back. We'll figure it out and go from there.
Thanks, Kristen. Barbara, then Sean.
Okay, so just speaking of cool benefits that might attract people, pet insurance. I mean, that was something that I saw when I was shopping around for jobs, and it's like, I don't think that's hugely expensive, but it's something that would distinguish possibly our offer.
And with respect to the superintendent's contract, Dr. Farah, the superintendent's contract is typically a one-off. And so that part isn't unusual. But contract-wise, Mr. O'Shaughnessy would be able to verify this. Superintendent's contracts, when the contract is expired, that is not an automatic guarantee of extension. So that's the only difference, and it's one of the reasons that the superintendent's contract is more of a one-off. And if there are some additional things there for other senior administrators, that's fairly routine. But it's an attempt to balance off on the fact that, you know, the typical first contract for a superintendent is a 3-year contract, and then go from there. So that's the usual designation of superintendent contracts versus other senior administrators.
Yeah.
Sheila?
The only thing I'm going to ask, Kim, is that in the superintendent's contract, there is a clause in there that says it cannot be renewed prior to, I don't know, whatever the day is, however many days before the contract is up. Meaning, if a superintendent is here for a year, I'm not looking for a future board to extend that contract for 5 years.
I don't think you can encumber a future board.
I'm sorry.
Well, you can't prevent them, and you wouldn't want to hire a superintendent who would come for a 1-year contract.
I'm not looking for a 1-year
Brian,
contract.
what she's saying is we don't want to run into a situation like we were, where you had a superintendent that had a year or 2 left on a contract and then was signed on for another 5 years.
Yeah.
We don't want to run into that situation. Kristen, I don't know if there's any way contract law, you know, when you're talking to Jim, we got to start drafting the new superintendent contract too.
Yeah.
And Kristen, there was one other thing that I noticed with these, just one more thing that I would ask that you ask Jim about. I don't know about anybody else, but these benefit sheets seem to get updated and effective dates get updated. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't remember seeing them come to the boards. So, you know, is there something we can put into a policy, maybe, Jen, that says that if, you know, before they're redone for effective date as of, that it needs to go before the board? Because, I mean, some of these were effective date of January 1st, 2020. And I don't remember seeing any of these things coming to us.
Yeah, I don't know. Kristen, maybe you can ask Jen.
Well, these were
Jim.
SAU.
Yep, or even.
These might have come to us through the SAU board.
They didn't.
No.
They didn't.
Not this
That's what I'm
SAU.
saying.
All right, we need to get some clarification on that also as to how to, you know, who's responsible for these SAU benefit sheets.
I think part of the issue, though, to speak to Sheila's point, is the board is not responsible for the hiring of these positions aside from the superintendent.
I agree.
No, that's not true, Jen.
Well, but we are responsible for the benefits that are offered. And I'm not just talking these SAU benefits, I'm talking all the way down. A1, B2, B3, whatever, and their effective dates.
You mean through the CBA negotiated contracts?
What they have before, yeah, what they have for benefit sheets are being effective date as of.
Before CPA.
Before that.
This is before Eddie Group was unionized.
Right.
So you're asking who creates these benefit sheets?
Yeah.
And who authorizes them?
That's the question, right?
And who updates them?
Who changes them?
Right.
Who changes?
So I think that's I think that's a question for legal, not really.
Yeah, that's a legal question.
I brought it up to Kristen because I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
That, you know, a sheet was effective as of January 1st, 2020. I wasn't aware of it.
Right. Okay. Point well taken. We know what we need to do. Kristen and I will work on this, mainly Kristen. But I'm happy to help.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, let's move on then. We're not going to take action on this tonight. Next on the agenda. Did I miss something? I guess Policies Act. Oh, okay. This is under this. Oh, policies. Second read on DKD, BEDG, BEDH, BFE. Is there any discussion on that?
Could you just say that in English once?
What?
Which policy is this in English?
Can you share the screen or something?
Yeah.
Jen, you should know all these policies. Hang on, I'll have to pull them up here.
DKD is comp time. There's a procedure coming your way on that soon. Even though we don't do procedures.
Well, we need to do that. I would run that one. Well, why is there a procedure for comp time?
No, you're not saying that. Why is there a procedure for comp time?
Oh, okay, never mind. But
All right.
but
Kim,
but why?
Wait, give her a break.
Hang on, guys. I've been on Zoom all day. I can't even find those policies right now.
I don't even.
They must be in the agenda packet, right?
I just can't do it because I have the other ones up and I don't want to lose where I am.
I don't.
It's page 51 of the agenda package, Kim.
Thank you. I don't.
Thanks, Maria.
Why am I not seeing?
Yeah, my agenda only has 5 pages.
Yeah, I know. My agenda packet doesn't have them in it.
I don't
Where'd
have
they
any
go?
of them.
Maria, can you share the screen? Can you share a screen? I don't know why your agenda packet has, oh, that's interesting. Was this,
I didn't have it either.
is this agenda packet, Maria, or is this an old one?
No, this is the one that Kathy Belcher sent today.
Oh, huh. Got way more pages than mine.
This is the policy, right? The EKD.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what we're looking at. It's just that the board members don't see that in our agenda packet.
Oh.
Our agenda packet's only 5 pages, so that's okay. Okay, so the first one for second read is DKD. Maria, could you scroll down, please? The next one is BEDG, which is minutes. You can keep scrolling down. The next one is BEDH.
Yeah.
Participation at school board meeting. And then the last one is BFE. And this is a second read, so we looked at all these last time.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on these? Somebody want to make a motion to approve these 4 policies for a second read?
I motion we approve these policies for a second read.
Robert makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ryan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. We're remote. Cat?
Oops.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Ms. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockmer,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing on this is at the last meeting, we talked about the superintendent evaluation process, and board members were asked to take a look. There were 2 different policy samples in here. CB1 F1 and CBI F2 procedures for this, which basically is the superintendent's evaluation. And board members were asked which, we want to take a vote on which evaluation tool we want to use. I asked, my feeling is, because I looked at them short time ago, was I actually prefer the one that is a 1, 2, 3 scale versus a 1 through 4. Oh, Barbara likes the 1 through 4.
Which one has binders with it?
I liked the 1 through 4 as well, but I'm open to discussion about it.
I listen, if people are for the 1 through 4, go ahead. I know you like the
I'm
1
curious
through,
to hear your feedback about the 1 through 3.
because I usually a Likert scale is an odd number and 4 is an even number, obviously. And for me, the difference between, I can't remember what the term was. One of them was excellent and one was outstanding. I can't really differentiate between those that well. I just felt that was a little difficult to distinguish. That's all. But I'm not
Well,
wedded
it's
to
funny
either
because
one.
I absolutely know what you're saying, but what I liked about the 1 through 4 scale was well, I guess I liked the comment section on each one. I guess the 1 through 3 does have a spot for comments in the bottom.
It does.
I don't know if I'm scrolling through it again now because I don't remember my thoughts on the categories. Were they similar?
I think they were pretty similar because I think they kind of pulled these out of what the requirements for the superintendent is from the, RSAs.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just interject why I like the 4.
Sure, go ahead.
So the thing is, I tend to be a hard grader, and to get the top mark, you have to walk on water. So it would be nice to be able to say somebody's excellent without saying they're outstanding. So with just the 2, it's like, yeah, you're doing okay, and I'd like to be able to give a 3 instead of just saying.
I got it. No, I'm good with that. You convinced me. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is not. It's not refined enough. I'm good with 1 through 4.
I mean, we can change the wording of outstanding and excellent to whatever we want, really.
It doesn't. No, I mean, people. Okay, so
I'll make a
this
motion
4 would actually align with what most districts do, and I believe also would align with our teacher and administrator evals. So that would be, I think, a point in the favor of the 4-point rubric. And I also believe that a 3-point doesn't allow the level of differentiation. And if it doesn't allow the level of differentiation that we want with the other employees, then why would we use it with the superintendents?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the
4-point scale.
Scale evaluation of the superintendent starting this year.
Jen, did you have Barbara seconds? Jen?
Okay, so we'll have a discussion on this. My only hesitation in adopting a procedure tonight is that we don't have a policy.
We did.
For evaluating the superintendent?
Well, we have an SAU policy, but does Timberlane have its own policy?
We have to adopt that policy for Timberlane's own policy.
Correct. And so I feel like it's a little bit backwards to be.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we do this then? Jen, you're working on the policy, right?
Yeah, and I do, it hasn't come through policy committee yet, and we can certainly put it on the next agenda, or we could even put it on the agenda to waive first read if we want to notice that tonight.
I don't think we need to waive it. I mean, we're not going to be doing this until, we've got time.
Right.
But, as long as we're all in pretty much agreement that that's what we want to use. I
I don't know how much time we really have though, because this policy hasn't come to policy committee yet. So policy committee is not meeting again till the February meeting.
Right.
Which means it won't come to first read till our second meeting in February.
Right.
which means then second read would be our
First week in March.
first week in March, right? But if we're looking to go through the interview process with the superintendent, I felt like, you know, at some point, maybe toward the end, they might want to know how they're going to be evaluated.
I agree, Jen. I think we should, why don't we notice this, that we're going to have a, how do we do this? Notice the first read?
Yeah, well, policy committee though hasn't looked at the policy yet, so the soonest we would do that would be the first meeting in February. But we could bring it straight from there to that first meeting in February to school board.
So we have to notice it the last meeting in January.
Okay. So Jen, could you take the lead on that so that that gets noticed so that we can do whatever, the first and second read at
Yeah,
one meeting?
And it's really not a big deal. Like I do think the policy language that New Hampshire School Board Association has for this is a little bit more comprehensive than what we had, unless that's a newer one. I'll take a peek at it.
Okay, and then you can bring the, we already know which procedure we want, so you can bring the policy and the procedure.
Did everybody like the 4.1 better? I didn't really hear from.
I mean, is that
It's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
anything's better than the 9?
Yeah,
The question
absolutely.
is that if we think that this policy is this important for time to get done, I mean, you're looking at a month right now for the next meeting. I mean, why can't we call, ask the policy committee to meet in like 2 weeks?
For what though? I don't know what the big
We
urgency
don't,
is.
I don't,
I think we're fine for doing in February, Sean. I just didn't love the idea of pushing it out till March.
right.
That's all.
Okay, so we're all set on that. That's it. Jen, well, you can talk under committee reports. Barbara, were you saying something?
We had a motion on the floor?
Oh, I will move it. Sorry,
Okay. I'll
The
withdraw
motion's removed, withdrawn.
withdrawn.
Okay. Is there any, no, we're all set with policy in terms of action items. The next thing on the agenda is the annual report article. The board needs to appoint an author of the school board's 2020 annual report article and provide guidance as deemed necessary. The deadline for submission is February 4th or the 18th at the latest. Does somebody want to take the lead on this?
Brian,
No, thanks.
I can't. Barbara,
I am way overbooked.
I can't. I don't have it in me. Sean, you're up.
He's on mute.
No, a different window popped on up. Yeah, I'll write it.
Yeah, you're it.
Thank you, Sean.
If you can draft it, Sean, I'll help you out on
Correct it.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
That wasn't gonna say it.
Come up with it, reach out to me. I just didn't want to own it.
Yeah, I just don't want to draft it. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks
I
a
just
lot,
don't have
Sean.
the time.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is a mid-year budget review. Do we have, Mr. Dowd, do we have any specifics on that?
I'd emailed you a little earlier, Kim. This is something that we go through a couple times a year, and it's a pretty important process that that I look at. It's a little bit more involved than opening the financials and projecting out. And I really need to bring Maria in on that process in order to assist with that transition. And we've been a little bit occupied between the budget and the union financial modeling to be able to get to that with any depth. So I know it's a normal thing to look at around this time of the year, particularly as we get into the new year. We're a little late in the budget process here with a number of changes going on. So I don't know if it's something we'd be able to move to the next agenda, next meeting agenda.
Yes, we can do that. Oh, I see you. That was today. You emailed me on this.
Kim, could we also add, and Maria, I'm glad that you're here. I was wondering, could we add like a cash flow analysis? Because I'd like to actually understand is like, how our funds are coming in and going on and out the door. Because it's also, you know, towns, the scheduling fees that we've come up with. I have no insight into that being on a town board. So it just, we get these numbers and how that is generated. I believe that there's been some kind of cash flow analysis on your guys' side too, because those numbers aren't linear from a town's point of view. So can we include that in there? We've never seen a cash flow analysis.
I can look into it. Yeah,
Okay.
let me look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the mid-year goals review. This is just an annual agenda item. Reminder board that we do have board goals. I do have these up right now. I just really not, we've been looking at most of these.
COVID this year.
What? I know. Well, some of them do review the impact of COVID, develop the organizational structure for the new SAU, support instructional staff. One of the things that we haven't done, which it says culture and climate, January 1, invite all union groups to attend a school board meeting and provide updates. Dr. Cochran, could you see if the unions would be interested in coming to the board for an
Certainly
update?
can. Yep.
Thank you. Anything else on the mid-year review of the goals?
There was something about kindergarten.
There is identify, explore the development of a district-funded full-day kindergarten program. I mean, we could do that over the course of the year. I just don't think we're really have the manpower right now to add that to the plate for the administration.
Yeah, I'm thinking we can just drop that for this year.
Well, it's in the goals. We leave it in the goals. It's just one of those goals that we didn't meet, so. Okay. And the next thing is, I think there's administrator's report. Dr. Cochran, there's a $500 donation that the board needs to accept.
Yes, St. Christopher's Church. Because it did not exceed the $500 threshold, I was able to accept it on behalf of the district from St. Christopher's Church. And it's to support the backpack program. For several years, we've had the nurse's office work with the high school students to staff and manage a food pantry for local families. St. Christopher's has supported this endeavor annually with a donation. We collect food items and distribute them through the nurse's office. The funding can go to the backpacks or items or supplies that we may include in them. And that's respectfully submitted by Dawn Woodworth, principal at the high school. So the board doesn't have to vote on that because of the $500 donation I've accepted on the board's behalf.
And we thank St. Christopher's.
Yes, St. Christopher's Church.
Thank you, St. Christopher's.
Thank you. Dr. Cochran, did you have anything else? That are in board members in your packet? There's an update from this facilities consultant. There's an executive summary that you can review. Dr. Cochran, anything else that you wanted to report?
Nope, I think we're good on that front. I think it's a quick summary after some conversation with our consultant, and he's certainly moving us forward with respect to several areas, including looking at energy efficiency, trying to tap into some grant opportunities. And so we're looking for things that are complementary to some other things that I know the district has done in the past in terms of lighting and savings, electrical savings and lighting and that sort of thing.
Okay, great. I don't see any personnel report updates or resignations. So are there any committee reports? I'll start with my screen. Barbara, Energy Committee met the other night.
Yep, we did. And Mark Fournier, the consultant, has attended, and he's been a great help. of course, the Energy Committee, we're always looking for ways to reduce our operating expenses, so it's not teachers is the only things we're trying to cut. So we are having good success with the exterior lights. Those have been converted to LED and we're seeing the savings, right, Maria? And now we're looking at the interior lights for all the schools. We've got an inventory. The Paradise Brothers have created an inventory of all the lights. We've gotten quotes from 2 different vendors on the cost of those. It's going to be about $250,000 to $300,000, I think, to do all of the schools, just the fixtures, not the installation. Did I get that correct, Kim? Was in that
Yes.
range?
Yeah.
And so we're going to ask Unitil what we think the rebates are going to be on that, because for the exterior lights, we got back $36,000 on like a $52,000 expenditure. And also Mark Fournier is going to be asking Rise Engineering what they might have for LED lighting and incentives to see if maybe we could even get an even better deal. The PPA for solar, the power purchase agreement might come back for a warrant article. We're still looking at that. It's not a money article. So that might make a reappearance, although I don't know. And then the last thing is the energy audit that Mr. Fournier is doing with Rise. We're very much looking forward to the results of that report and seeing what the Energy Committee can do to help move any suggestions from that forward. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Jen, policy?
Policy committee met tonight. We got through 8 policies, I think. So should all look forward to those for our next meeting.
Yay, 8 policies. 9 now, though. Oh, well, I guess not the next one. Okay, Sarah?
So CNA met earlier in the week for our January meeting, and it was fairly short. It was a light agenda. The one thing that we did do was we approved some teacher identified additions and some modifications to the ELA curriculum for the elementary school, at the elementary school level. These were all changes and tweaks identified and developed by our teachers. I know that's been a focus, is really making sure that, you know, as our teachers go through the curriculum, that if they see areas of opportunity, they work together to kind of present those. So yeah, it was a pretty light agenda, and we just went ahead and reviewed that and accepted them. So
Okay, thank you. Kristen, did you have anything?
I'm not on a committee, am I? No. Just kidding. You know, the superintendent search committee, the application process or deadline has come and gone. So we now have all of our applicants in, and the committee is going through them now. And we hope to, by next week, have a list of those that we're going to interview and be scheduling the interviews for the next first round of interviews for the next couple of weeks.
How many applicants did we receive?
20.
20? Okay.
So.
And board members, you should have received an email regarding confidentiality of applicants. Typically, first round is confidential, and finalists typically are, you know, public, because some of those, at least part of the interview process at the second level, would be public. Right, Kristen?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So.
Anything else before we adjourn?
Kim,
Brian?
I'm gonna see if I'm gonna put Jeff on the spot, if he could give us some highlights of the budget committee. Because there was a group of us in the budget call last week, and the budget committee found approximately 2 million. So Jeff, could you just give us some highlights, you know, what the budget was and some of the big items they came up with and what it is currently at? The proposed budget.
Sure, Brian. So as you know, the 2021 voted budget was 73.3. And the budget as it stands right now, the operating budget, the proposed budget is 74.3, which is up about $1 million, about 1.38%, not too far from where the default is right now. So a lot of the changes that were made to the budget were made during the last meeting, and a number of those changes, I'll put them into 4 different categories. There were some budget committee identified reductions, some school board identified vacant positions, some business office identified reductions, as well as 2 other groups of recommendations that came from the school board, which were the high school administrative positions and the TTA positions. I think the school board had put a number on those of about savings of $100,000 for high school admin positions, and the TTA positions were at about $210,000. So I believe all of the vacant positions that were identified by the school board were also adopted into the operating budget, which was a savings of about $683,000. And the budget committee identified about $252,000 of miscellaneous cost savings as a general proposition, just really looking to trim back a lot of the accounts that we have to closer to where spend or trend has been, or where we think we're actually going to be on them. And they adopted some business office identified cuts as well, which include tightening up a little bit on our staffing numbers. We had a track change, for example, reserve that we have every year, about $50,000 that covers employees who change tracks during the year. You know, that's the type of thing I know that there's been I think Sean and a few others perhaps on the board have really asked me to look into where the sources of our surplus may be. And at the end of the day, that amount of money is there for track changes, but really we end up saving from attrition anyway. So if an employee does have a track change that we have to meet during the year, we budget them for the level that they're at during the budget season. And if that changes by the time we get to the operating year, that's an amount $50,000 that we would have used for that. But realistically, we end up having savings from turnover to cover that. The budget committee also reduced some of the salary lines just to reflect the fact that no matter what happens, no matter what our staffing is, we end up having just some, you end up having position vacancies. And so they went in and addressed a couple of those areas as well, so that, we know we're gonna have two vacancy para positions every year, just not throughout the year, not all at once, but you'll have 2 regular ed para positions that you'll have some paraprofessionals who are onboarding, offboarding, and there's always a little bit of a gap. We looked at just some general detail fees for athletics, some outside services fees we were able to reduce. Took a reduction on the Medicaid billing service because it looks like it would end up spending less with them, not through any fault of theirs, just the overall revenue is down. I think our revenue will be up as we go forward, but we're still over budgeted. Really took a look at utilities, took quite a bit out of utilities, about 120,000, I believe there. And, looked at some other lines, security, took about 30,000 out because we have some of those funds already budgeted elsewhere in the budget. Reflected the savings that we had from any vacancies that we have throughout the year in insurance and FICA, as well as retirement. So those totaled about 647,000. So overall, the budget committee did adopt, and apparently like a lot of the recommendations that were made by the school board in terms of the vacant positions and a number of the other initiatives that were put forward. And those were adopted right into the budget. So that's where we're at right now. I believe there's an informational copy of the budget in your packet this evening as well.
Okay. There is. So the budget committee now has a proposed budget that funds positions that the school board has eliminated.
Some of them, yes. Yep.
I would like to see a default budget constructed based on the budget committee's proposed budget.
Okay, based on their positions. Based
Correct.
On the position. Yep.
Yes, I'd like the default to reflect. I'd like to see a new default budget reflecting that. The other thing is, I'm wondering if the default budget is reflecting the changes to utilities that you've made in the proposed budget, because if you're telling me there's $100,000 less in the proposed budget, then I don't know how you can justify $100,000 more in the default budget.
Yeah. It's an appropriation from the
It's
prior
a
year.
question. It's a
Yeah.
question. If you reduce that number, then you're telling me the contractual obligation for utilities is down by that amount, correct?
It could be interpreted that way, I suppose. Right? It could be interpreted that way.
Saving more money, right?
Huh. Yeah, and remember, the appropriate default budget would be the appropriations that were contained in the budget that was voted by the voters, unless there's some exception to it. And one of those, of course, is the contractual aspect of it. If there's a contractual obligation. That's one of the factors that can move. You can also look at if expenditures are one time or not, as you know, Kim. And Barbara, yeah.
Does the default budget reflect those changes in expenditures for utilities?
It does not, no.
Why not?
I wouldn't necessarily put them out there initially as a reduction in a contractual obligation. I certainly wouldn't do that without the school. That's really a discretionary item that I'd need the school board to
Like
determine.
utility bills are month to month. They're not contractual, right? It's based on usage.
Based on usage. I mean, we have contracts, not for a certain amount, right? We're not obligated like you would be for, transportation, that this is how much our buses are going to cost to run every day, and they're going up 3% every year. We don't have a reduction necessarily in the contractual amount, like we don't have a reduction in the contractual dollars that we would pay necessarily. We don't have a reduction in or an increase in any of that. It's based more on usage. So that really is a determination that the school board would make if that was a contractual obligation.
I don't think it's part of the statute though, Jeff. I don't think that's what that is.
What's that? Right. Sorry.
I don't think it's part of the statute, the default statute, utilities.
Yeah, I don't
think
you can touch it.
Well, I don't think so. I'm not sure we could either. I'd need a determination from the school. And Barbara, one other example of a determination, you asked earlier about the vehicle that we bought last year. The vehicle that we purchased last year, I'm thinking about it a little bit more now, may have actually been in the replacement vehicle line or the replacement equipment line. Okay. And as a result of that, even though it was in replacement equipment, the school board is in a position to make a determination that that was a one-time expenditure. So even if it was in replacement equipment, not new equipment, the school board could make that determination. So I would need the school board to make a determination on what we're talking about right now, which would be the utilities, that reduction in utilities, if that were something that we were going to move forward with.
Okay, so we'd like to see a default budget based on the budget committee's proposed budget versus a default budget based on the school board's proposed budget for the next meeting. One other question I have is the ESSER money, the money that we could have gotten up to, hang on one sec, Barb, $200,000 or $600,000. How much did we put in for that grant?
I believe we're maxed out on that grant.
Okay, great.
I believe that it's been fully utilized, and Kim, I'm saddened in a way that we were not able to get the HVAC, consulting and any replacement equipment into that grant. But I am okay with it because again, we're able to utilize the funds, move things around, and it looks like, I don't know what the terms of it are going to be, but it looks like we'll be getting some additional funding from the federal government or through the state. So perhaps we can look at that for some other projects coming up as well. I don't know what it's going to be for. I have no idea, but I'm happy.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Barbara.
So I'm trying to understand your request for the budget committee's version of the default budget. Does that mean we're going to be reinstating the FLES positions?
No. All I'm asking for is, no, all I'm asking, the reason I'm asking that is it appears the statute's unclear. It says it's based on the proposed budget, but doesn't say the school board's proposed budget or the budget committee's proposed budget. So I want to see what it looks like based on the budget committee's proposed budget.
The legal citation is RSA 31.3 3, budget means a statement of recommended appropriations and anticipated revenues submitted to the legislative body asterisk by the budget committee or the governing body if there is no budget committee. Since we have a budget committee, it's by law, the budget committee number.
Very good. And I just wanted to say thank you to the budget committee for trying to find all those additional places where we could reduce. So I appreciate your efforts.
Jen, do you have your hand raised? Oh, I see a little hand in your screen.
You're getting tired, Kim. We're all getting
All right.
tired.
No, am I imagining it? Can you see it?
No, I can't see your
No, I
hand.
think that's on your computer. I made the same mistake last week.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I better adjourn before I get myself in trouble. Okay, thank you. So we'll see you at, remember, January 12th, 14th.
And possibly the 11th.
The 14th, yes, possibly the 11th. Thank you.
Because we don't see each other enough.
Oh, hi, Isabella Mozzarella.
Bye, puppy. All right. Thank you
Good
very
night,
much. We'll
everybody.
see you soon.